There's a strange game playing out in the background of our lives, so deeply embedded in our nervous system that we no longer question it. From early childhood, we're caught in an invisible pressure, one that pulls us towards approval, recognition, and comparison. We are taught to compete without truly understanding what for. This isn't natural competition like rivers racing each other to the sea. It is a conditioned one, meticulously installed into us by a society that measures life not by its depth, but by its display. This compulsion to prove ourselves, this subtle panic to be seen as more successful, smarter, more important, has roots that run far deeper than we admit. It begins in the earliest stages of our conditioning, not out of malice, but out of misunderstanding. We are rewarded for standing out and encouraged to win, not for the joy of the experience, but for the recognition it brings. This subtle conditioning teaches us that our worth lies not in who we are, but in how well we perform in relation to others. Life, once a spontaneous unfolding, becomes a ladder to climb, and somewhere in that climb, we forget the ground beneath us. In its origin, this status seeking is almost innocent. A child notices that praise brings smiles, that gold stars bring affection, and that being better at something earns more love. Slowly, without conscious intention, we start measuring ourselves against others. The joy of doing is replaced by the anxiety of being seen doing well. This is where life loses its spontaneity. We trade presence for performance, and joy for justification. What began as play became pressure. As we grow into adulthood, the game becomes more intricate and far more deceptive. We chase degrees, promotions, higher positions, branded belongings, and curated lifestyles, not because they hold inherent meaning, but because we believe they place us a few notches higher in this invisible hierarchy of worth. Social media amplifies this game to absurd levels. Now, not only must we live well, but we must also be seen living well. Privacy becomes a luxury. Authenticity becomes a risk. In this relentless pursuit, we stretch ourselves thinner and thinner, always reaching, never arriving. What we often fail to see is that this very race is hollow. It has no finish line. Every new level of success only reveals another. We rarely pause to ask, who set the terms of this race? And more importantly, do these victories truly nourish us? Or are we merely reacting to outside forces, shaping our lives according to the shadows on the wall? Many are secretly exhausted. They have climbed, only to find that the view isn't quite what they were promised. The promotion brought a raise, but not peace and love. The applause felt good, but only for a moment. The recognition came with unwanted responsibility, but not with rest. And the strange thing is, even those who appear to win this game often feel trapped inside it. The higher they rise, the more they must protect their image. Like a bird locked in a golden cage, their wings ache for something the cage can never provide: freedom. This obsession with power, position, and comparison creates a strange kind of prison, one where the bars are invisible but the confinement is real. The more we chase, the more our identity becomes fused with outcomes. We start believing that who we are is what we achieve. This confusion between action and being is subtle but devastating. It erodes our inner calm. It disconnects us from the simple joy of being alive. And if this goes on unchecked, the consequences are not just personal, they are generational. We will raise children who measure themselves by likes and rankings. We will create workplaces that value output over well-being. We will shape friendships based on usefulness rather than presence. The more we chase admiration, the more brittle our world becomes. Without self-awareness, we risk building lives that appear full but feel hollow. We may succeed in many ways and still feel a persistent absence within. We will seem to have everything and yet feel nothing. This is not a call to reject ambition or creativity. It's an invitation to investigate the source of our motivations. Why do we want what we want? Is it truly ours, or was it whispered into our ears by a culture addicted to comparison? The key lies in letting go of the chase, not the work, not the passion, but the craving for validation. Letting go of the idea that every move must lead somewhere higher. Life is not a race with a podium. It's a rhythm to be lived. When we live with self-awareness and fully in here and now, without being bound by the fear of falling behind, our actions become more powerful, more impactful, and ironically, more respected. It is not just that we continue to chase illusions, it's that we lose contact with the deeper, more vivid layers of our lives. If we don't turn inwards, we risk spending our entire lives polishing a mask. A life built on the need to be seen is not a life lived, it's a life acted out. And then the tragedy of life is not just in the exhaustion, but in missing out on our authentic expression and presence. The more we seek outer validation, the less self-aware we become. The less self-aware we become, the more there is a need to seek outer validation. The way out of this status trap begins with a simple but radical act: attention. Not the kind of attention we give to our phones or our followers, but the inward kind. A gentle, curious attention towards our own thoughts, urges, motivations, and fears. When we begin to observe ourselves, not judge, not correct, just observe, we open a door to something far more real than status. When we begin to grow in this self-awareness, the entire structure of our life begins to transform silently from within. We start to touch our authentic selves, our unique, inclusive creativity. There's something uniquely compelling about someone rooted in this awareness. They don't need to impress, they just are. Their power isn't forced, and their creativity isn't rehearsed. And this, ironically, is what draws others to them, not through effort, but through presence. When you grow in self-awareness, something real starts to glow through you. You become admirable, not because of status, but because of depth. People feel the integrity of your being. When we begin to live from this place of awareness, something unique and organic begins to express itself through us. We stop trying to copy others or impress them. We stop perverting ourselves into fashionable identities. Instead, we start having access to our own inclusive creativity, something alive and deeply individual. And because it comes from a sincere place, that uniqueness has its own gravity, which naturally draws people, not through performance, but through love and admiration. You don't have to perform a connection, it begins to happen naturally. This kind of living with self-awareness asks for courage. The courage to walk alone sometimes, the courage to fail gracefully, the courage to enjoy something without needing it to become a metric of value. When we begin to let go of outcomes, not out of laziness, but out of clarity, we begin to live more fully. Life becomes its own purpose. Each moment is not a stepping stone to somewhere else. It is a destination in itself. It is not about retreating from the world, but participating in it more consciously. We can still work, create, build, and contribute, but from a place of inner balance, not inner deficiency. Success and failure become simply two experiences, not verdicts on our worth. We become less interested in being better than, and more interested in being fully with what we do, with who we are, with the here and now. A conscious life is not free of challenges, but it is free of illusion. We stop seeing ourselves as fragmented parts needing to be assembled into worthiness. We return to a more natural rhythm, where doing comes from being, not the other way around. And so, perhaps we don't need to fight the status-driven world. We simply need to become more self-aware. As we cultivate presence, the grip of comparison softens. As we honor our experience without labeling it, the need for external approval loses its charm. The world remains the same, but we are no longer hypnotized by it. We are no longer the same.